artists, we're in my kitchen again today because today we're making recycled crayons. So we're going to take all the crayons that are at your house that are broken and you don't really want to use because they're teeny tiny or maybe kind of gross and dirty. And we're going to turn them into new usable crayons. Now you're going to need a couple of supplies for this project, and you're probably going to need the supervision of a guardian or a parent, or maybe if you have an older sibling in high school, they can help you too. The first most important thing is preheat your oven to about 200 degrees. You don't want to go up to anything higher than about 225 for this project because the crayons will melt too fast. You're going to need a silicone mold. These you can find in the cake decorating section of any craft store or grocery store. They're silicone and they can go into the oven. This one is shaped like Legos. You're going to need some sort of a dish to put water in if your crayons still have paper on them. If your crayons don't have paper on them, then you can skip this step, but you'll need a dish with some hot or warm water in it. And then, of course, you'll need some broken crayons. So I have a container from the art room. We save them all year long in here. And then I have some from my house. I also like to keep a second bag for smashing of the crayons. So this bag has smashed crayons in it. And I just use the handle of a tool. This is a screwdriver. And I pound them in the bag so it makes almost like a confetti crayon mix for some extra color options. So I'm going to fill my dish full of warm water and put the crayons in here and show you guys how easy it is to take the paper off the crayons to get us started before we fill our molds with the crayons. Okay, guys, go grab your supplies and let's get started. Okay, so this is filled about halfway with warm water. And I'm going to take these crayons that still have paper on them and I'm going to dump them into the container. And you ideally want them to sit here for a couple of minutes. You want the paper to get nice and soft. And all you're going to do is you're going to start taking the crayons and peeling off their paper. Now, once this has been soaking for a while, sometimes the paper will just fall out right in the container. And you want all of your crayons that you're going to be using for this activity to have no paper on them. Now, in the art room, we have this bin full of crayons where we take the paper off of them in very large batches so that when we're making our crayons at school, we already have this huge container full of crayons with no paper. Now, if you don't have an oven at your home, that's totally okay because in the art room, we use a toaster oven, and that is a small, tiny little oven that sits on the counter at your house, and it gets up pretty hot and is totally okay. The little trays will fit right into the toaster oven. Just make sure you have it on a little metal pan before you stick it into the toaster oven to prevent it from leaking. So just go in here and spend some time taking all the paper off your crayons. And when we come back, we will be ready to put our crayons in the crayon molds. Now, I'm putting my papers right here on a paper towel. You can put them on a regular towel, and that's just because I don't want them sopping wet in the crayon mold. Especially if you're doing this in a large batch to use for later, you don't want your crayons getting moldy or soggy. So when you put them away in a container like this after you're done to save them for another later day, please make sure they're totally dry. You don't want any mold or anything gross happening to your crayons while they're all packaged up on a shelf. Okay, guys, when we come back, we'll start filling our crayon molds. I just wanted to really quickly show you how easy it is to peel the paper off these crayons once they've been soaking for about 10 minutes. The paper will actually come right off the crayon, and you can peel the crayon and any type of glue that might be left behind on the crayon. These crayons have been soaking for maybe 10 or 15 minutes at this point because the water is really cooled down. And the paper is just literally falling off the crayons. So you want to make sure you start with some hot water and you let them sit for 5 or so minutes, and the paper will just come right off the crayon. This is a great tip, especially if you are going to do this with a lot of crayons and you don't want to be spending hours and hours and hours trying to get the paper and any kind of residue that's left behind on the crayon off. So definitely let them sit there and soak for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so I have my crayons here drying that I just got out of the container. They're still wet, so I have them on the paper towel, but I also have my container of crayons that I brought from the classroom that are already dried and pre-peeled. Now, you can go at this and just dump crayons in this mold however you want, but this week's theme is color, so we're going to do some color experimenting and I'll tell you about some good ideas for colors in here. Now, if you want to get really crazy, you can put the crayons in a bag and maybe take them outside to the driveway or the sidewalk, and you can bang on them with a hammer, or the handle of a tool. So this is a screwdriver, and you can get a powder or pieces, and these will melt really fast in the oven. Or you can just take the crayons and you can break them and put them inside the crayon molds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make color families of crayons. So I'm going to make a row of cool crayons. So cool colors are greens, blues, purples, violets. Now sometimes once these crayons have been